beyond the boundaries of reality, where imagination weaves dreams into existence. Welcome to Storylight. In the heart of a forgotten mountain range, hidden from the world's gaze, lay the Enclave, a mysterious city suspended between time and reality. No map marked its location, and no history book mentioned its name. It was a place where the past, present, and future coexisted in a strange harmony. A city that had stood for centuries, untouched by the outside world. The Enclave was home to the descendants of an ancient civilization, one that had vanished long ago, leaving behind only whispers of its existence. They were a people gifted with strange powers, those who could read the future, communicate with the dead, and alter the very fabric of time. But their power came with a price. Once a soul entered the Enclave, they were bound to it forever. And so, the Enclave existed in isolation. A self-contained world where its citizens lived out their endless lives, oblivious to the world beyond. Liana Serafis, a young historian from the capital, had spent years researching forgotten civilizations and uncovering lost secrets of the past. Her work had taken her to the furthest corners of the world. But there was one legend that she could not shake: the Enclave of Lost Souls. For years, the Enclave had been a mere myth, a place spoken of only in hushed tones. But recently, Liana had come across a series of ancient texts, fragments that suggested the Enclave was real and that its citizens had been making contact with her ancestors long before their fall. Determined to uncover the truth, Liana set out on a perilous journey into the heart of the mountains, guided by the fragments of her research. The journey was treacherous. Liana navigated dense forests, crossed ravines, and braved blizzards that seemed to appear out of nowhere. But her determination kept her going, driven by the thought that the answers to her family's mysterious past were within her grasp. As she drew closer to the heart of the mountains, Liana began to feel the weight of something strange in the air, a tension that pulsed in her veins, an unseen presence watching her every move. It was then that she realized the mountain itself was alive, as though the very land was aware of her presence. She could feel it in her bones. The Enclave was not a place that welcomed visitors, and it was not a place that could be easily found. One night, after what felt like an eternity of trekking through the unyielding wilderness, Liana stumbled upon the first sign of the Enclave. A crumbling archway stood before her, covered in moss and vines, a doorway that seemed to open into another world. There were no guards, no gates, only silence. The only sound was the wind whistling through the cracks of the archway. With a deep breath, Liana stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest as the air shifted around her, becoming thicker, almost suffocating. As soon as she crossed the threshold, the world around her changed. Liana found herself standing in the Enclave, a city bathed in an eerie, twilight glow. The streets were lined with strange, towering structures made of an unknown material that shimmered in the dim light. The air was heavy with the scent of incense, and the faint sound of distant voices echoed through the alleys. But the city was eerily empty. There were no people in sight, only the faint whispers of long-dead souls that seemed to drift through the buildings. Liana's heart raced as she ventured deeper into the city, her footsteps echoing off the stone pathways. It felt as though the very walls of the Enclave were watching her, waiting for her to uncover the secrets buried within. She soon came upon a grand temple at the center of the city, a structure so massive that it seemed to defy the laws of nature. The temple's doors were open, as if inviting her to enter. Inside, the air was thick with an unnatural presence. Liana stepped forward, her hand brushing against the cold stone walls as she made her way deeper into the temple's heart. At the center of the temple stood a vast pool of water, its surface rippling with an otherworldly light. And standing at the edge of the pool was a figure, a woman with pale skin and long, flowing black hair. She wore an ornate gown made of glimmering silver, and her eyes were as dark as the void itself. For a moment, Lyanna hesitated, unsure of whether she should approach or turn back. But the woman spoke, her voice echoing in the silent temple. "You have come for answers, Lyanna Seraphis. But the truth you seek is not one you can bear." Lyanna's heart skipped a beat. The woman knew her name. She took a cautious step forward, her voice barely a whisper. "Who are you? What is this place?" Quote. The woman smiled, a sad, knowing smile. "This is the Enclave of Lost Souls. We are the last of an ancient people, bound to this place by a curse of our own making. But we are not the ones who will tell you the truth. You must look within the water, for it holds the answer you seek." Lyanna approached the pool, her reflection warping in the rippling surface. As she gazed into the water, memories began to flood her mind, memories that were not her own. She saw her ancestors, brave men and women who had once been a part of the Enclave, who had come here seeking immortality. But in their greed, they had sealed their fates, binding their souls to the city and trapping them in a never-ending cycle of suffering. The curse that bound them was one of their own making, a price for their power and their desire to defy death. And now, their souls were trapped here, lost to the ages, waiting for someone to break the curse. But breaking the curse would not be easy. Lyanna would have to make a choice: remain in the Enclave and become a part of its eternal existence, or return to the outside world, never knowing the true cost of the magic that bound her family. It was then that the woman spoke again, her voice a whisper in Lyanna's mind. "The choice is yours, Lyanna. But remember, the Enclave never lets go of those who enter." Lyanna stood in silence for what felt like an eternity. She thought of her family, of her ancestors, and the power that had been passed down through the generations. She thought of the life she had left behind, the people she loved, the world she knew. And in that moment, she understood. The Enclave was not just a place of power. It was a prison. A place where souls were kept trapped in an endless cycle of desire and regret. But there was hope. Lyanna could break the curse, release the souls, and free herself from the Enclave's grasp. With a deep breath, she stepped away from the pool and turned toward the exit. As she made her way back through the city, the air seemed lighter, the oppressive weight lifting from her shoulders. She knew what she had to do. The Enclave would no longer hold her, or anyone else, captive. With a final, determined step, Lyanna crossed the threshold and left the Enclave behind, its haunting whispers fading into the distance. And as she returned to the world she had once known, she carried with her the knowledge that some secrets were never meant to be uncovered. But others, like hers, could change the world forever. The Enclave of Lost Souls would remain a forgotten place, hidden from the world's memory. But Lyanna's legacy would endure. For in freeing the lost souls, she had broken the curse that bound them. And the power of the Enclave would no longer hold sway over the future. And though the road ahead was uncertain, Lyanna knew one thing for sure: the past would never again control her destiny. The story ends here, but countless others await in the vast expanse of imagination. Subscribe to Storylight for more journeys into the unknown. See you on the next adventure.